Hey y'all, it's a new episode of Steph Kat Talk WOW, and it's championship filled. We get to see if Paola Mayfield can actually put her money where her mouth is in Vegas. And we get to see if Monsters and Metal can finally knock off top tier. Again, this is Steph Kat Talk WOW.
Yeah, yeah. Making her way to the mic. They start dimming the lights. You start feeling alright. From Birmingham, home of the Teddy Longs, and the room is stutters. More once you discover. For all of the lovers, Whitney Houston and Roman Reigns. For all of the lovers, and Mickey James and Marvin Gaye. For all of the lovers, and Sasha Banks, Janelle Monáe, Silk, Sonic, and Paige. Allow me to say, look, I just found a place we'd escape. Every one of us, I was kinda late, cause I just made it off the struggle bus. Walking by the fate, cause I know it's right in front of us. Yo, I ain't with the hate, gotta focus on what's great. Ladies and gentlemen, Steph Hardy is on the air.
Hey y'all, welcome again to a new episode of Steph and Kat Talk WOW, brought to you by the Hardy Wrestling Podcast and In Cat We Trust. Of course, I'm your girl Stephanie Hardy, host and creator of HWP, alongside Bianca Addison, my new co-host, as well as contributing writer for Daily DDT and color commentator featured on various promotions such as Battle Club Pro, the Belladonna Division, Black Girl Magic 2022, and Spartan Wrestling. But of course, I'm not alone. With me is my fantastic co host and creator of this fabulous show and founder of her own fabulous platform, In Cat We Trust, a celebrated author as well as an amazing super mom. She is Katrina Storm. How are you, Kat?
Hey, I'm okay. Managing. It's been very busy, very hectic, but I'm okay. How are you?
I'm doing okay. I'm happy we're back together, even though I'm bummed out that your camera's giving you issues and I can't see your face. But at least we're together.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just technology is man made, so it's bound to fail. But either way, it cannot keep two amazing people in a tag team apart.
Yes.
So, in this episode, this is actually going to be our last episode of 2025, which makes me kind of sad, but in the end, it's okay because we've had a pretty stellar year in terms of continuing with this show and with the coverage of WoW, Women of Wrestling, superheroes, and just every interview we've done and all the things we've accomplished. And it's just been a fantastic year for us as a whole. It has had its ups and downs, but in the end, we've made it towards the end of the year, and essentially this is our last episode due to the fact that WoW Superheroes is starting their newer batch of episodes in January. On January the 3rd is what they said, and of course, leading up until Christmas and into the new year, for the rest of December, they'll be showing reruns. So that means that a lot of the episodes that they're about to show, we've already covered. So this is our last time together in this capacity. But Kat, how do you feel about everything that has taken place with WoW over this year and just the trajectory of the show in general?
I think we've gotten a lot of good stuff this year. New superstars, new feuds. Some family feuds, some breaking up, making up. I think it's been a crazy ride for a while. So I'm definitely looking forward to see what we're gonna get in 2026.
Yeah, me too. It's so funny that, we're talking about this now, and I was actually looking through my Facebook memories. And, some people are 50-50 when it comes to those things. Some people say maybe you shouldn't look at your memories, and sometimes maybe you should. But of course, I'm one of those people who tries to, as much as I can to kind of just see what the evolution of things are like. And I believe it was either this week or last week where I was looking through and I saw where you and I were actually, at that show that was at LA Comic Con. And of course, we had your panel there with the Women of Color in Wrestling panel with so many talented women. And just thinking and just looking at us even then and just how excited we were to interview those ladies there and also interview Hollywood, who was just one of the pioneers of Glow slash Wow then, and then you look at us now and where we're at, it's just really insane to think about.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. I
all
saw that a few days ago too, and it's like, oh man, that it's been what,
mhm.
3 years? I think 3 years.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Crazy in itself, but yeah, we've come a long way since then as well. A lot has happened and changed since then.
Yeah, a lot has happened and changed since then. The thing is, our love for women's wrestling still remains, and we still remain. And I'm just very grateful to have you on this journey and to just have this and to be blessed with this journey as a whole. And just seeing, how women's wrestling has evolved even this year. I would say this year would probably be the most definitive year for women's wrestling I've ever seen.
Hmm.
Um every woman across all even here like at WOW has just been doing stellar work, putting themselves out there, laying it all on the line, putting their bodies on the line, really just striking out and believing in themselves and just, making women's wrestling one of, if not the main attraction in a male dominated sport. And it's to the point now where it's only going to get bigger. And this year has just been a phenomenal year for women's wrestling.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. It's I like mostly. I think that I feel like this year we've gotten more eyes on WoW. Um,
Oh, yeah,
and and
absolutely.
and you know that I mean, a few weeks ago, people just doing the most, but overall, you know, we've gotten more people viewing WoW and seeing how awesome they are and whatnot.
Absolutely. And I'm just really happy for it. So, in the midst of women's wrestling continuing to grow and hopefully seeing more growth from WOW, we are just going to continue to cover it, as much as possible for the people who actually want to, give it a try. And we'll always encourage those to give it a try, and if it's not for you, I completely understand. Different people
I
have
don't know if
different
you have
tastes.
her or not.
What?
Sorry, my kid asked something.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Um, but yeah, we will always be here and we plan on being here in 2026 to cover WOW and continue to cover the trajectory of all these amazing women in and out of WOW. So, with that in mind, we're going to get started with this episode called The Reckoning, which is such a earth shaking type of title for a TV episode, but I think honestly it fits what goes on here. There were only two matches, but either way, we're going to recap the entire episode. It originally aired on November 29th and the 30th. So in this episode, they showed a recap of the journey of Paola, the Colombian goat Mayfield, and Abilene Maverick, and how they really wanted and pushed for Abilene to have her opportunity at the WOW World Championship. And in speaking of the trajectory of WOW, it's so funny when we first met Paola Mayfield. It's like she came in with a lot of pomp and circumstance due to the fact of her past as a reality show star, as someone who got famous from being on 90 Day Fiance, and maintaining her relationship, which is something that she did discuss on this episode. She talked about her background coming from South America, meeting her husband, and also being a self made woman, and throwing away the notion that she wanted to be with her husband out of, a gold digging type of thing. But really, she said there was no gold to dig. She just wanted to be her own woman. And then she just so happened to find love on this reality show, on the first season, no less, which is even crazy to think about because I remember just when my mom started watching 90 Day Fiance, it just felt like it turned into this phenomenon. And she was on there on the very first season. So Paola really has been out here. And of course, she calls herself the GOAT because she was on the Amazon Prime reality show called The GOAT and she won $20,000. So Miss Ma'am really has been out here, but now, of course, she wants to prove herself and become the WOW World Champion. And she thought that all of her spectacle was supposed to just garner her a chance. But David McClain was like, look, you got to work your way up like everybody else. Like, you can't just come in here and just try to take chances like that. So, after learning more about Paola, um, we do move over into Mexico, where we do hear about Tormenta and her background. We even get to that. We meet her mask maker named Adrian, who has basically been a mask maker since he was a child, along with his father, who ran a workshop for lucha wrestlers and their masks for years. And he described the type of mask that Tormenta wears, which is black with different colors on the top of it. And then Tormenta started talking about how she got into wrestling with her grandmother and how she loved Lady Apache and how she began training for wrestling at the age of 3 and then started fully pursuing it at the age of 11, and how she is proud to represent her Mexican heritage and her Mexican people as the Wild World Champion, and how she's going to keep the title away from Paola. So, Katrina, how did you feel, or how do you feel about Paola and her journey as a wild superhero from beginning to this point, and also with Tormenta having overcome everything she's overcome to become the Wild World Champion?
I think it was nice information, like from when we first started watching in Tormenta, like we had Sophia, like with her kind of saying that there was a client and, all this other stuff. So kind of having her kind of stand her own, and kind of give her own backstory, give her, I feel like she's branching out, and not even like in a bad way, just like she's branching out and kind of finding her own. And wow. And I think that's a great thing. And so I loved that she gave that information. I love that she shared a part of herself, part more of herself rather, to the WoW audience. Cause I know she has like, she's been doing this a long time. And so it's not like this is like new for her, but to the WoW universe, who again, with the newer people coming in 2025 and watching WoW and learning the women that's in WoW, I think that was great for her to do, especially as somebody who we watched fight a few times to win the championship, and has, it took some time for her to get that and to get it. And, where I felt in this regard, it was done in a way where, how before I kind of complained, like, oh, well, girly, you kind of lost a couple of times. How are you back in the picture? But in this regard, I felt like this time around, she actually did what she was supposed to do and whatnot, and got it and won it. And, so far so good. And so I like that she gave a little bit about herself. I think that's a nice way, if you're not like, known to somebody new and you're champion. Well, this is a nice piece of information. It's a nice piece of history from you. So I did like it. I thought it was very, like, I enjoyed her, I guess, telling about, her history and everything she's been doing. It's definitely been on something I appreciated, just as somebody who's been watching it from the second iteration as long as we have.
Yeah, I appreciated it too because we've seen Tormenta, of course, be this stellar athlete for so very long. And like you said, I'm so happy you mentioned her, Sophia Lopez, the world's greatest attorney, when she was her manager. There was a lot of proving herself that she did as an athlete that we saw, but we didn't really get to see all of her and all of what her motivations were in terms of the ring. And I felt like in this episode, we definitely got more of that. We saw how her family fed into things because she was sitting with her, I guess you could presume would be her husband and her children. And just seeing them even be supportive of her by wearing their own Tormenta mask. It was just really cute and just very homey and very cozy and comfy. But essentially, I just love the pride that she has in her heritage and her being, of course, the first Mexican born Wild World Champion and wearing that proudly on her sleeve and wanting to represent it, as best as she can. But we did see more of her heart on display. And speaking of 2025, I really feel simply because we got to see her dabble in WWE a little bit with the whole Worlds Collide thing with AAA.
Yeah.
Um, and that was really awesome for me because I have always, if you've been watching Steph and Kat Talk WOW for these past couple of years, I have always manifested a WWE collaboration with WoW because there were so many similarities there that WoW has with like NXT. And I was just like, it would be so cool if this happened. And that was probably the closest we'll probably get to it. But either way, I was so happy it happened and people got to see how talented she was over there. Um, And so to cross over and see her as Tormenta over here, it was just really cool to see that. And now we're seeing her rise as the champion she always knew she could be. And that we always knew she could be. Because I always wanted her to win. I feel like I say that about a lot of people. I want everybody to win. But I always wanted her to win, but it would always seem like she would just come just so close and then just not win. But now she's standing on it and it's really cool. And I did enjoy hearing Paola's story too, because I feel like reality show stars get a bad rep a lot of the time. Um, and I feel like I didn't really think about it. Actually went to the movies a couple weeks ago and I saw a preview for Paris Hilton's new movie. And I know that she was essentially born rich into the Hilton family. But then in the trailer, you got to see how there was a lot of crap that she went through due to, the exposure that she had in the early 2000s. And so in my mind, I'm just like, you know what? I really feel like sometimes we do be giving reality show stars the worst rap and forget that they are human beings. And seeing Paola come from, essentially a background in South America where she worked for everything, wanted to have her own business and do her own thing, I actually appreciated that. So that was cool. Not saying that,
Yeah.
not saying correct, but I respect her background.
I mean, I guess. I do have a really hate love with reality stars. I really do not like reality TV for the most part, only because I do think it's the worst of people they show sometimes.
Mhm.
And I think it's very few people who are lucky enough. Like, I think one of the things, even with like Total Divas, like Naomi was never in no drama. Like, she might have said a little something, but she was never in drama, and I always love that. Like, about like Trinity, like she there, but don't put her in the nonsense, don't involve her in anything. So she was one of the few people who wasn't like in the drama when you think of like reality TV, where it's like they're friends in one scene and in the next scene they're not friends, or they're like in the green screen room talking like a bunch of crap. And so, because that's normally what reality TV is, I usually stay away from it because I feel like it's
Mhm.
such a negative, especially with women in reality
Mhm.
TV. I feel like sometimes it's just so negative that I choose. I don't really like to watch it because I'm like, there's more to us than that. But I get
Right.
that people love reality TV and they like drama and they like the ratchet or whatever it is you want to call it, because I've heard all the names for reality TV. But so I get, I'm just like, I really don't how I feel about some of these because she's friends with her my enemy, as you call it. And so I'm like, I don't know, but I do respect, again, I guess, reinventing yourself. And I do think people should be able to do that as many times, as long as you're not doing anything like really crazy, and I mean like hurting somebody in a way that people in wrestling have done over the years. But as long as you're not doing anything like that, I do believe you can be yourself and do something different and do something new. And so I do respect that. Sorry, I went on a whole tangent. My bad.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I feel like it's a conversation worth having because it's like you and we're children of the 90s, right? So it's just like over a certain point, we essentially saw reality shows hit like first at first strike, like bam. And to see all of the messiness of it and how it evolved over the years, it just I understand the negative connotation because for a while I didn't. Like for a minute I was, but then eventually I kind of let it go because it was just a lot of fighting and I was just like, okay, I'm tired. Like if I want to really watch fighting, I watch wrestling and that's it. Um but and the way and you are right to a degree, the way they edit and cut things and makes it seems as it feeds into the notion that women are just solely the most unhinged people, and that's not true a lot of the time. We're all pretty unhinged at times and it's usually for specific reasons, but they sensationalize a lot of things, which is entertainment as a whole. And it can't be and it's not healthy to look at times. So I completely understand and feel you when it comes to that. But it's nice to see people away from that environment and then you get to see like the real them and you're just like, oh, okay, well, yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, but Paola Mayfield is out here. trying to become champion, which leads us into the first match of this episode, the first championship. This caught me by surprise because normally the Wild World Championship match is in the main event, but that wasn't the case this time. We had Paola Mayfield, of course, coming out there with Abilene Maverick versus Tormenta for the Wild World Championship. And then Mela Hay now, who I forgot, I think I mentioned this on the last episode. Recently, an Emmy winner. Congrats to her for that. Was on commentary and she was speaking, as a friend of Tormenta's, because she also serves as her translator. She was on commentary with David McClain and Nigel Zane talking about, her motivations from wanting to retain the title, even battling through her shoulder injury. And this match was pretty good. On the count of both ladies, both of women were very locked in, except in my notes I wrote locked DF in. Sorry. Um um my notes are pretty crazy. Anyway, they both locked up and traded wrist locks. Paola tried to shake up Tormenta with a kick attempt and a backflip, and they both traded wrist locks again. We saw more submission work from Paola than we've normally seen in the past. You can tell that she really tried to break down Tormenta at her own game when it came to submissions, but of course Tormenta kept up out of the wrist lock and then and then they both traded arm drags and then scouted each other and came to a stalemate as the audience on Fremont Street were giving them applause. And of course, Abilene Maverick was trying to insert herself, but not so much so to the point where it took away from the match. Paola actually kicked Tormenta and whipped her into the corner and then splashed her into the corner and gave a forearm shot and a leg sweep and a knee to the face. This match was very hard hitting towards the middle component of it. As Paola was trying to goad Tormenta into hitting her, she yanked on Tormenta's arm over the top rope. She continued to target that shoulder that was injured in that match against Reina Del Rey. Um, but Tormenta proceeded to fight back with a suplex, and then Paola actually shifted Tormenta's suplex attempt into a roll up to try to get a quick cover. But as they both proceeded to fight back, Paola actually ducked a clothesline attempt from Tormenta and hit a basement dropkick and then hit a DDT for a 1 count. Then Tormenta slapped Paola as she sat on the top rope and then lifted Paola and knocked her out with a muscle buster, which low key, which really did remind me a lot of Jordan Grace when I saw this. I was just like, okay, Tormenta, I see you showing off your strength and then slamming her into the mat and ended the match with a 3 count because usually she'll end her matches with like a meteora. But this time she did it with a muscle buster, and I was really glad to see her break out with that. And she retained the Wild World Championship. So Tormenta is ending 2025 still our Wild World Champion. So not you're not Tormenta, Katrina. How did you feel about the match?
I did think it was a good match. Like I said, I'm iffy on Paula, but I think it's more of a just because who she tends to have in her circle and squad that I'm like, I don't know, sis. But I do respect again her wanting to reinvent herself and doing so by having a match with the champion. I thought that was a good way to go. And I thought she really did do her thing in the ring. I think from when we first saw her, I think she's gotten better. I think from the first time we seen her to this match, just like I like when I see improvement, like when somebody can be good but then you can see that they're getting better, and you can see that they're either having more ring awareness or being, if they're face or heel, whatever the case may be, you can see they're using that to the advantage. And this is me specifically talking about WoW. And so I think it was a good match. I did enjoy it, but I am also very happy that Tormenta will be leaving 2025 as champion, just because, again, she was somebody who fought long and hard to get this championship, with all the time since we started her kind of being in the title picture, where she was there and then she wasn't there, then she was there again, and then she was in like a tag team for a little bit, and then so she had a lot of things happening in WoW. So for her to finally get this on her own, it's good to see. And so I would like to see her with the belt a little bit longer. And so yeah, I thought it was a good match, good way to open up the episode.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I think Well, I'll say one thing and then I'll say another thing afterward. I'll save it afterward. But the thing that I love about Tormenta still being champion is that we get to see her have more matches and more challenges because she wants to be a fighting champion. And I honestly feel a wrestler of her caliber deserves to carry that title, defend it, and fight against the best of the best. Like, I want to see, even though I know Santana Garrett is in a tag team with Princess Aussie, I would love to see Santana Garrett fight her. I would love to see Princess Aussie fight her, even though, of course, they have their tag team pass. There are a lot of great matches that I think Tormenta could have during her reign, that I would very much like to see her have. Like, I feel like she really is not done. So if she had lost the title to Paul, it would have been cool for her, but I would have been very disappointed at the caliber of matches that we wouldn't necessarily get. Like Penelope Pink versus Tormenta would probably
Yeah.
hit. I mean, but I also, and even in feeling like people who haven't really got much of a chance at the Wild World Championship, I feel like Holly Swag versus Tormenta would hit too, or even Fury or Daisy Lane versus Tormenta. Like, let's see how these newer people would, fare in the Wild title picture. But, it's just a matter of what happens. But I'm glad that Tormenta is still champion because she is only scratching the surface of what she can do as champion and the type of matches she can have. So I can't wait to see more of what's in store next year for that. And also, I loved how Mela came into the ring with her to celebrate after she retained it. And then you heard the chants in the crowd, and the chants were saying, si se puede, which, of course, for those who might not be abreast in Spanish, that means yes, we can. And I just love that because number one, it reminds me of my childhood. It reminds me of Gotta Kick It Up from Disney Channel. Disney Channel kids rejoice. Um, and I just love that that's just a phrase that Hispanic people use to lift themselves up. So it was just really nice to hear that as a celebratory backdrop of her retaining the title. It was cool. So yeah, it was a pretty good match, and Paola really has risen up to prove that she really doesn't need the interference of Abilene. You know, maybe we'll see
Yeah.
them possibly separate next year. Maybe not. I don't know. Um, there is a part of me that wonders why Abilene isn't wrestling right now. Why isn't she wrestling? I mean, and it's not that I get bored with watching her, be a valet because she's amazing and I have a girl crush on her and she's just really pretty. But at the same time, I do wonder, like, when are we gonna see Abilene Maverick back in the ring? Like, is she gonna, get tired of propping up Paola? Will they have a beef? I don't know, but we'll see next year. It's gonna be fun. So yeah, all these questions, but Tormenta is unquestionably still our Wild World Champion. So congrats to her. So we did get a superhero spotlight on Fury. And they told a little bit of a story of her being the older sibling and essentially being a parentified older sibling to her brother and her sister. And she talked about how one of her only means of escapism was, going to heavy metal concerts and listening to all kinds of classic music or heavy metal music. And we did get to see and get a recap of more of the promos that Top Tier and Monsters and Metal have had, along with them, having a pep talk backstage before their main event match for the Wild Trios titles. So that was really cool, and I was glad to hear more um, about Fury, even though it still feels a little awkward that she calls herself the Heavy Metal Sister. When once upon a time it was like two of her, it was two other heavy metal sisters, and I'm just like, God dang it, that's sad, but that's just the name of the game. Um, so yeah, and also I can relate to Fury to a degree of being the oldest sibling, um, and just trying to keep not necessarily keep everything afloat because my parents, of course, I like we had that village and we had stability, but at the same time, you still feel a sense of responsibility as the older sibling. So I love hearing that sense of story from Fury. And I still want the world for her because she's essentially a WoW OG and an OG in wrestling, period. And I just want to see her get her things. Kat, do you have anything to add?
No.
Oh
No.
man, I feel like I talk too much when you say
No, you're good. You're good.
that. No. Okay. So after that, we move into our main event because, like I said earlier, this episode only had two matches, but they're both championship worthy. We get top tier. That's Coach Campanelli, Crush, aka Candy Crush, and Gloria Glitter versus Monsters and Metal. That's Fury, Chainsaw, and Daisy Lane for the WoW Trios Championships. And this was a match that I've been gunning for the past 3 months because, of course, Top Tier have been wreaking havoc on Monsters and Metal, bullying Daisy Lane, and of course, Coach with her history with Daisy Lane, formerly known as Pep Riley, with them tearing up her doll and everything, and then Crush still being angry at Chainsaw for how she did her when she was walking around with her dark crew and how she destroyed her boxing gloves and everything. It was just really crazy. But either way, finally I got the championship match I wanted. My boyfriend's in the comments. Hey babe, saying GG because he loves Gloria Glitter. Um thank you for watching, love. So this match was pretty heated at the start. Both of these teams, of course, really hate each other, and Top Tier isn't playing fair because, of course, they're angry due to the fact that Coach's challenge to beat all of them in singles matches all fell apart because all of Top Tier lost against all of Monsters of Metal. So they started off the match brawling with them, didn't even let them finish their entrance. It was just like really crazy. They knocked a good portion of the team off of the apron. Coach Crush and Gloria then tossed Chainsaw into the ring post and laughed about it because, of course, they are just so vicious. Then Daisy got back into the thick of things and executed a splash to all of Top Tier. Then Fury lifted Daisy into two drop kicks into Crush and a Hurricanrana. And it was really funny because at this point, you low key thought the match was going to be over because Monsters of Metal bounced back so quickly. But then they kicked out of Fury's backhand and clothesline that she gave to Gloria Glitter. Gloria then tossed Fury into Chainsaw. Then Fury got kneed in the back and kicked by Gloria Glitter, doing most of her hard hitting at the beginning. Then Coach Campanelli stepped in, um, and basically, her the one thing that Top Tier is really good at is using those multiple tags to gang up on somebody. And they did that to Fury, isolating her from her corner, and tagged each other multiple times to step up onto her and hit her with different clotheslines into the corner. And then they hit a basement drop kick to Fury for a 2 count. Fury just kept trying to fight out of different things. And then Daisy finally tagged in and gave her Karana to Coach. Gloria moved Coach out of the way because they are also masters of just pulling each other and just sort of studying each other and knowing how to move one person out of the way in order to get the upper hand on the other team. It was just a lot of craziness going on. But as the match kept going, all of the ladies wound up fighting outside of the ring, throwing each other outside of the ring, and it just went from a technical trios match to just mostly a brawl and mostly a power move and all the above. And Chainsaw and Gloria were left in the ring to a 2 count. Um, and due to being pulled out of the ring, the referee was only counted a 2 count for Chainsaw. And Coach Campanelli yanked the referee out of the ring, but then Chainsaw tossed Crush out. And then Daisy hit a graveyard smash, but there was no referee. But then a new ref came from backstage and counted three. And just when it looked like we had new WoW Trios champions, the referee who got pulled out by Coach Campanelli decided to call it a no contest due to the fact that he got pulled out and didn't see what was going on. But my thing is, okay, I'll get to it later and I'll let Kat speak on it before I go off on my tangent. But because of that no contest BS call, Top Tier got to keep their WoW Trios championships, and then they bragged about still having the titles, essentially saying that it doesn't matter what you do, we'll still find a way to win and still be top tier. And that was the end of the episode. And I'll let Katrina speak before I speak because I got a lot to say.
Yeah, so I did think the match was good. I do think there were like a hitting moments, you know, between the ladies, and I do truly like this team of Chainsaw and Daisy and Fury. I do think. Good evening. I do think that it was a good match. With that being said, I've said before how I'm a little bit questionable about some of the calls that happen in WoW, because sometimes things just don't make sense to me. So if if it was if the win happened or whatever, where it was like you knew this before you got pulled out and now all of a sudden you don't know, like, let's not do shenanigans. I would have rather you restart the match in the regard that some people would be like, okay, we're going to redo it. That would have been better than the whole it's a no contest, because it's like, well, how many calls do like, I just want to know whatever school some of the referees go to in WoW that they miss things like that to that. And so many other times where I'm like, are we playing games? Like, are we serious? Like, this is what we're doing. And I don't even know whose fault it is, but a lot of times, unfortunately, the referee is gonna have to take the fall because it's always their calls that they're making where things just doesn't make any sense. And so they should have lost those trios titles, and they're good wrestlers, don't get me wrong, but I do think coach, ego sometimes is too big for her britches. I think, you put yourself in a situation or situations that the saying is you wrote a check that you couldn't cash, and so you put, that's the cleaner version of I think how the saying goes, but you said that you can beat, like, y'all can beat everybody, and then singles because that's how good you guys are, and it kind of implies that because you can only win if you guys are together and doing some shenanigans, or if you're doing some foolery or you're cheating, and so that does change how how good of a trios can you guys be if this is what we're doing. And so I was a little annoyed with that because it was just like how every time somebody in WoW just can't seem to read or see or hear or whatever it is that's going on, you guys just never see anything. And that was quite annoying. I was annoyed by that. But it was a good match. I just really hated that end. I hated the whole change the call. Not I didn't like it. But it's not the first time I've complained about that with WoW in particular. Sometimes certain calls really does not make any sense to me.
Yeah, I agree with you. I was actually yelling at the TV when this happened. I was yelling and I said very, 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 just very strong words. I was very upset about it because, like I said, I've been asking for this match for a long time because I really feel like it's been past time for top tier to learn their lesson. And the right combination of teams, like David likes to say, they haven't found that combination of teams that can actually beat them. This was the combination right here. They beat them in singles matches. This is the title match. This is Las Vegas on Fremont Street. And this is where you decide to have a referee who made the worst call ever. Like, this really made me upset because those women did not deserve to be embarrassed like that. And number two, they rightfully won because it's so funny. We were just talking about Samantha Smart complaining about the WoW rules when it comes to the class master, but really when it comes to the rules of wrestling as a whole across all promotions, I thought it was understood that if one referee becomes incapacitated, another referee has to run from the back and actually make the call. I thought that was common sense by now. I thought that was, I've never seen, as long as I've been watching wrestling, like in my present mind, in my sound mind, I've never seen a referee call a no contest just because another referee came in and actually made the count and you didn't see it. I've never seen that happen. Like, just never. So the idea of that other referee coming in after he got yanked and pulled, that doesn't make any sense because my thing is, if you hit a referee, Coach Campanelli Like if any referee gets hit by any talent or any athlete, number one, they're getting fined. And number two, coach should have lost her trios title simply because of the fact that other referee counted one, two, three. Chainsaw and Daisy Lane hit the graveyard smash and had them beat. That's the end of it. That should have been the end of it. Now, mind you, it was a cluster F towards the end, and you couldn't tell really who was like the legal woman per se. But still, it's just the principle. Um, one, two, three, that's it. Monsters and Metal should champions. And I agree with you, Katrina. There have been multiple times over the course of us covering WoW where we've questioned a lot of the calls that the referees make and we question their competency. And it's just, annoying. And I understand for the sake of, they probably do this for the sake of carrying on the story. But I feel like in some cases, sometimes wrestling sense has to outweigh wrestling and sports sense has to outweigh the continuance of a story. And
Yeah.
honestly, it makes no sense for Top Tier to still be the Wild Trios champions. It just doesn't. As good as a team and as cohesive as a team as they have been,
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense for them to start 2026 and be the new champions. And I'm not just saying that because they're, the bad guys and we were rooting for Monsters and Metal. I'm saying that just as a fact.
Yeah.
Like as a longtime wrestler, and as a longtime fan, and just knowing the rules of things, that just doesn't make sense. So yeah, do better when it comes to those decisions. Um, of course, we're gonna still, be on the ride and everything, but of course, if you love something, you do have to be truthful about it. And that was the worst call I've ever seen. And I don't like that. And it just wasn't fair to them to have those girls, to have Fury, a WoW OG, Chainsaw, a WoW OG, and Daisy Lane for all the evolution she's done, to hold those titles, think they've won, and then have it snatched from them in front of the crowd in Las Vegas like that. That's embarrassing.
Yeah.
That is absolutely embarrassing. And if they don't get a rematch, I'll be sorely disappointed. They need a rematch because that
Yeah.
was a no contest. They should demand a rematch. If it becomes January, if Christmas and New Year's Eve passes by and New Year's Day passes by and there is no rematch, then that would be a miscarriage of justice and I'll be upset. I'll
You're
be
not
very
wrong.
upset.
I guess I didn't understand the call at all. I was actually quite annoyed by that. But as in 2025, I think I've complained a lot about the calls. Like, what are we doing? Am I crazy? Like, do I need to? You need to call me to referee, and I don't not know a lick of refereeing skills at all. But do you need me to do it? Like, I don't know. I just gotta be better. Like, that's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Like, just do better. I say that to everybody about when I see shenanigans. Do better, referees.
Literally do better. And my boyfriend, this is a joke between us. He says it's a discrimination to wrestlers everywhere. He did that because he knew that was gonna make me. Oh my god, Katrina, Kat, I have to tell you what this is. I don't know if you've seen this video online of Megan Thee Stallion before she was Megan Thee Stallion, and she was in high school, and somebody on the news, somebody at their local news, I guess in Texas somewhere, asked her about how their school, I think their high school canceled Nerd Day or something. And she was in the camera and she was saying, and it's a discrimination to nerds everywhere, all right? It's racist. And then it gets and it cuts off.
I
And
have
it's
seen it. My daughter showed me that clip.
oh my God. I love Megan Thee Stallion, but that is one of the funniest videos I've ever seen because when she said it, the inflection in her voice, and to see Megan before she was famous, looking like a precious teenager, just a precious black teenager, speaking her mind the way she did in that video was just fantastic with the Texas accent, everything. Just letting people know, look, it's a discrimination to nerds everywhere. And, and every time me and Jock get mad about something together and I rant or he rants about something, he'll always say, and it's a discrimination to blank everywhere. And he did that. That's just our thing. We love to do jokes like that with each other. And he just did that in the comments, and I'm trying to run the show, and it's going off the rails because oh man, I'm gonna get on him tonight. I can't. I'm so gonna get him. He just made me laugh with that. I'm cracking up. Oh, I love you. But anyway, it was a discrimination to wrestlers everywhere. It was wrong. It was wrong. But hopefully next year they'll make it right. Top tier is still the Wild Trios champions, and we're going to, and hopefully they'll fix it within the new year and everything. And that was the end of the episode. So we've reached the end of our time together. So thank you guys for watching this live. If you were tuning in, um, live right now on both of our YouTube channels and on the Facebook. And of course, haven't watched it, and if you're not able to watch it live, you can watch it later on both our channels. Please subscribe. Um, and yeah, we'll be back next year in January when they start their batch of new episodes again. This year has been fantastic for WoW, fantastic for women's wrestling as a whole. Um, and yeah, as long as women's wrestling continues to thrive and as long as WoW continues to thrive, we gonna be here. So yeah, Steph and Cat game. We always gonna be here. There we go. Um, I love it. So yeah, Katrina, thank you so much for being my tag team partner um over the course of this year and doing the interviews when I couldn't do the interviews, and just helping and doing what you do best and being you and doing this with me. It's been great.
Oh, oh shucks. No, you definitely held it down on the days I couldn't do something or it just was a crazy week. It's been a really crazy year, honestly, just with trying to handle all everything that I do. And on top of being a mom, um, never ends. And so sometimes I feel like I'm like losing my mind and trying to make everything work. But I do appreciate you stepping in when I can't be live, or if I have to. I'm thinking like, oh, it'd be fine next week, and I'm like, oh no, it's not fine because I'm trying to figure out a time that works when I'm not doing something else. And unfortunately, as much as I'd like to, I can't split myself um into multiple pieces and be in multiple things at the same time. And so that, but I do appreciate, that doing, everything that you do. So I love you and
I,
I do.
I love you too so much. And it's like I always tell all of my friends in New York, if only New York would just move down here to Alabama, I would be so happy and we would see each other more. But either way, I still feel the love through the screen, and it's fine. Even though, we can't just pick up a state and put it somewhere else. Oh, if only. But it's okay. I can't pick up Alabama and move it up there either. It's just, yeah, people would have a problem. But anyway, um, Steph Kat Talk WOW. We'll be back, of course. If you have not watched WOW already, and if you want to catch up on the older episodes, they will be airing from this weekend until January the 3rd when they start their new ones. And if you haven't watched any of the episodes, you can watch them on their 24/7 WOW channel on Pluto TV and also on Roku TV in their Wrestling Central portal, where they also show NWA. You can watch it there. You can also watch them on Vice TV, I believe on Tuesday nights, depending on whatever type of programming they got, because they show a little bit of everything on there. But, watch them there when you can. And of course, figure out what time it comes on for you on different channels. On wowe.com, which is their official website. That's WOWE.com. And up the look up what channel it comes on for you on regular television using your zip code, and find it there if you want to watch it there. And then, of course, you can watch the episodes on YouTube too, because they upload each episode to their YouTube channel, which is Wow Superheroes. If you want to check it out there as well, and buy their merch too, and just continue to support them and support women's wrestling all around, in the independents in the mainstream market and everywhere else, because it's going to continue to be awesome. It's going to continue to blossom and be cool. And of course, no, you can follow me, your girl Stephanie Hardy, on Instagram and Twitter at Queen Steph Hardy. You can follow my show, The Hardy Wrestling Podcast, on Instagram at Hardy Wrestling Podcast and on Twitter at Hardy Wrestle Pod. You can listen to it on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and subscribe to the YouTube channel, which is the Hardy Wrestling Podcast with the purple diamond shaped HWP in the middle of the ring. And just continue to support the show as it continues to grow in all the ways. And also read all my pieces at Daily DDT. I've been putting in work this year, and I have one more thing up my sleeve. And of course, my newest episode with Bianca is coming out tomorrow, because we're doing a tribute to John Cena, because we got to share our feelings. Um, because Saturday is going to be a booger bear on my heart, but we're going to get through it together. So, Kat, let everybody know what you've got going on and where they can find and follow you.
I think my rest of my year will be pretty chill. I think I have one interview happening soon-ish, but it's pretty chill. And then I have one more show that I'm doing in the 20th in Jersey, my last wrestling show where I'm working until 2026. Guys can, if you're in the area in Jersey, definitely come and check it out. It should be cool. And I finally got most of my social media to stay in Cat We Trust correctly. So it's now in Cat We Trust correctly, and the only place it's a 3 and not an E is on X or Twitter, but everything else is officially in Cat We Trust. I'm very happy about that. So you guys can follow me on all the social media platforms.
All right, that sounds cool. So, of course, this is the last Steph Kat Talk WOW of the year, like we said earlier, but it's been a blast, and we will see you in 2026. So this has been Steph Kat Talk WOW, brought to you by HWP and In Cat We Trust. And until next year, y'all.